the trailer looks generic, and the movie is also
what you see,
generic.
What you see, what you get, what you get. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Mostly Wrong Opinions. I am Tyrone. That is Devin. We have an adventure for you today, but probably not the one that you really want to see, especially if you're a fan of this.
No.
That's right. Uncharted.
Oh, this is gonna suck!
Video game movies have a long track record of being shitty because I'm gonna go ahead and kick it to Devin. He's gonna say the reason why. Because video games are already what?
Exist.
Video games already exist.
Yeah. That's the problem. I feel like a lot of video games, they already look like movies. They're already here and they're already good.
Especially this thing.
Yeah. So I'm like, what are we gonna do with the movie? All you're gonna do is lose something, right? All you're gonna do is lose the interactivity. That's it. Even if they were to recreate everything in the game perfectly, it wouldn't be as good because you lost a piece, right? So I'm like, unless you're gonna do something really different, really unique, try something, go a completely different direction. I'm not sure if I understand the point of this anymore. There used to be a time when I used to want video game movies, but now I don't think we need these anymore. This is like something from a bygone era. I don't think we need this.
I don't think we need it any either, man. And the thing is, we might be speaking to the people who are gamers when he says we don't need it, because the people who are not gamers is apparently what the movie industry is trying to go after with this film. Because
okay, but if you're not a gamer, why would you care? Right?
Exactly.
Seriously, if you're not a gamer, this is a real question. If you're not a gamer, why would you go see Uncharted? Now, I think the studio was probably thought the same thing. They're like, okay, if you're not a gamer, why would anybody go see this? Well, maybe you'll want to come see Tom Holland. And I think that's the whole draw of this film. This is 100% a Tom Holland vehicle. It is Tom Holland all day, every day. He's in almost every single shot, every single scene. It's all Tom Holland all the time. If he's not in the scene, then there's an actor playing young Tom Holland in the scene. Like that's how much they are really leaning on this guy.
Oh, Tom Holland all the time.
Yeah. And this movie has been famously in development hell for eons. I think it was about 10 years. Apparently there were 7 different directors attached to this film. I'm going to go through the list because I think it's hilarious. The list is David O. Russell, Neil Burger, Seth Gordon, Sean Levy, Dan Trachtenberg, Travis Knight, and finally they landed on Ruben Fleischer. Like, holy crap. This does not always mean your movie's going to be bad when you have this kind of like chaos going on before the film comes out. I always like to point to Mad Max as an example of that. Mad Max came out really well, but not every movie is Mad Max. Most of the time, you're going to get this. You're going to get what Uncharted is. And to me, Uncharted is generic. It's like a
that was the word. That was the word right there.
It's like the LaCroix of a film. You know how LaCroix, the drink,
I hate it.
LaCroix kind of, it's supposed to taste like a flavor, but it's just barely there. Everyone has a joke. It's like they bottled it, but the flavor is like in the room somewhere. This movie's kind of like that, where it's like you get a hint of a movie in here somewhere. It's in there somewhere. You're like, there's a film, but ultimately, no. This is barely a movie.
So here's the thing. When he says LaCroix, I think of a drink called Hint. There's a drink that's actually there called Hint, and that's the real thing of what this film is, where it gives you a hint of what these games are about. It gives you the essence of it, but not fully the essence of it, because when I was in the theater watching this movie, and I was like unimpressed where the story was going, because they tried to piece so many, because this is the 4th installment. They tried to base the whole movie around this 4th installment of A Thief's End, but they tried to pull so much from the other games to present inside this film, right?
Yeah, they kind of picked and chose across a bunch of different
things,
Uncharted movies.
different actions, pieces, different things that Nathan would say, and things like that. But the thing what I wasn't actually enjoying in this film, which I enjoy so much in this, was the hunt, the treasure hunt. The treasure hunt felt like this to this to this. There was no guessing, because when you play Uncharted, the man who Nolan North, who's doing the voice, who's doing the acting of it, he is thinking. He is actually being a treasure hunter. Just something about every set piece in here about the actual treasure sucked to me in this game.
You know, I think in the games, and I'm gonna move on from comparing this to the games in a second here, but I think in the games, like, and Nathan feels chaotic. You know, he feels you feel like he feels untrustworthy. He feels like he barely knows what he's doing. You know, you can tell he's very smart, but a lot of this stuff is like educated guesses, and he seems to be getting himself into a lot of unnecessary trouble and stuff like that. You know, but this movie, it does kind of feel like, you know, step 1, then step 2, then step 3, then step 5. It does feel I feel like anybody could have followed this trail to
like
to this goal. So it doesn't have that same kind of like chaotic, reckless thing going on. As a matter of fact, this chaotic, reckless thing going on is a big key point of the storyline in the 4th game, because Nathan Drake is retiring and he's like, "Can I live like this?" And it's like, no, you can't. but
No.
Right. But back to just this movie. Like I said, I think this movie really banks on Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. These two actors is charisma and their like camaraderie with one another. But I gotta say, I did not buy that Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg were like good friends or something, or like a father figure thing. They had no chemistry with one another. They seem to just be like working together, like work buddies. That's it.
The script also made it that they fought and bickered all the time.
I didn't buy that they were becoming closer and closer. I didn't buy that one person was a mentor to the other person. I didn't buy that they liked being in the same room as the other person. Like, they didn't really seem like buddies. And you know what's interesting is you can kind of compare this with another actor that Tom Holland does share a lot of screen time with, and that's the actor that plays Ned in Spider-Man. You can tell they get along, but I feel like there's no real chemistry between Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, which is a shame, because the whole movie is built around their relationship.
The whole movie and the story arc of what Uncharted is, it comes from the partnership of Sully and Nathan. Do you remember, bro, about 2 or 3 years ago, there was a fan-made film that was funded by Nathan Fillion. And it starred Nathan Fillion.
Right.
People were going crazy over that film because Nathan Fillion feels like Nathan Drake. He has the look of it, but the director made it feel like a Nathan Drake type of, story and things like that. And I'm like, they could have used that type of energy. Just the energy. You don't have to be Nathan Drake. I mean, you don't have to be Nathan Fillion.
But see, I don't know. I'm not sure that's fair to compare, because that's a short film, and the difference between a short film and a real film, eons. So I mean, like, they're barely comparable. So I'm not sure, because if you try to cut, I bet, and this is what they try to do in the trailer, if you try to cut this film into a short film, just using the most iconic bits of it, you will get something that looks like Uncharted. You know what I mean? It'll look and feel like Uncharted. But the problems are when you try to expand this out into a film, you get something that looks generic. For example, in the game, I keep comparing it to the game. I'm so sorry, but in the game Uncharted, there's a very famous sequence where Nathan's falling out of a plane, and of course they redo that sequence here. Yep. And there is like I said, there's a chaotic nature to that scene in the game, and there's a feeling of danger. But in the movie, not only is Tom Holland very literally asleep when he's falling, but there's no sense of danger. I never worried for him. At no point was I like, oh my gosh, he's in over his head now, what have you done, right? Because that's kind of how you feel with Nathan all the time in the game. You're just like, Nathan, you've gotten yourself into a big old boatload of shit, and you got to figure out your way out. But I didn't feel like that at all, and so in the game, that set piece was just like one moment in that game. That wasn't like the big conclusion. That was just like,
it was the beginning of Drake's deception. It was the beginning of it.
Yeah, it was just something that happened to Drake. You know what I'm saying? It's so crazy. But in this movie, like the whole movie, it seems to be built around that moment. And so like, it seems small, but stuff like that, when you try to make this into a film, it gets really difficult. A short story, man, or a short film, they don't do that. They just have to capture this thing in a bottle real quick, boom, and then they can just leave. You know what I mean? Before we realize that, you know, these two actors don't have any chemistry, the movie can just end. You know what I mean? So
I see what you mean. I see what you're saying.
But for this movie, we've got to sit here with Tom Holland for 2 hours. So one positive thing about Uncharted is it gives me an opportunity to talk about one of my favorite action sequences of probably, maybe the last 2 decades. And that is the amazing skydive sequence from Mission Impossible Fallout. That was from 2018. And the only reason I bring it up is Mission Impossible Fallout and Uncharted both have a very similar sequence where, well, I guess in Uncharted, Nathan Drake falls out of the plane, but in Mission Impossible, Ethan Hunt jumps out of the plane. But what makes it better in Mission Impossible Fallout is Brad Bird, the director, he uses this sequence as an opportunity to show some character development for not just our main character, Ethan Hunt, but also for his partner, who was played by Henry Cavill. And we see that Ethan Hunt is meticulous and careful because he initially doesn't want to do the jump, but then Henry Cavill, he's like, F it, I'm doing it anyway.
Walker, we got a problem. There's a storm and we need enough talk. I'll see you in Paris.
And he jumps out of the back of the plane, even though Ethan Hunt told him not to do it. And Ethan Hunt has no choice but to follow because they have such a narrow window of when they can make this jump. And of course, the jump goes sideways. And this whole sequence, during the sequence, we learn things. We learn things about Ethan Hunt. We learn that, like I said, he's meticulous and careful. And we learn Henry Cavill's character is reckless and brash. He makes these like sharp, quick decisions. And then halfway through, when the whole thing goes sideways, Ethan Hunt has to make a decision. He has to decide, should he rescue Henry Cavill's character or let him essentially fall to his death? I mean, it's his own fault. And Ethan Hunt is already established that Ethan Hunt and Henry Cavill don't get along and they don't want to work with each other. But of course, Ethan Hunt rescues Henry Cavill, and we learn about both of our characters, and it moves the story forward. If in Uncharted, if they didn't have that jump sequence, I don't think we'd miss much. I mean, we'd miss an action sequence, I suppose, but there'd be no hole in the story. But in Mission Impossible, without that skydive sequence, we would know less about both of our main characters. And without the sequence, it would have made the big twist at the end far less impactful. I say it's every episode now, but once again, these are the hardest movies to talk about. I wish I could report and say to you that this movie was absolute trash, the worst movie I've ever seen. I wish I could tell you that. And I wish I could say this was the greatest movie. I can't say that either. This movie's like, it's a movie. It's a movie. You know what I mean? There it is. You did it. It's got a beginning, middle, end. It's got an actor. There's some character progression in there. It's a movie, but it's not a memorable movie. I have forgotten it. I forgot it immediately. The second my butt stood up, I forgot it. That's why I texted you. Yeah. That's why I texted you immediately. I was in the theater when I was texting you. I texted you immediately so I could remember certain things. I was like, I'm never.
You know what he texted me, people? Uncharted.
Yeah, Uncharted. I did. Just like in a lot of other movies where they get really caught up in the iconography of the character, but no one really cares about the character himself, right? So there's a lot of bullshit around the ring, which means nothing in this film. So why did we go on and on and on about it? Just have the ring be there and don't go on and on about the stupid ring. And they didn't do that in the game either, by the way. The ring didn't become important until the very last game. So they went on about the ring, and then he's got to wear these Henleys, and then the Henley shirts. Then there's like a whole sequence where he puts on the guns, like he's like slowly building up his outfit. And it's like, okay. So like they're so big on the iconography.
And they played the music.
Yep, they start playing the music, and Sully gets the mustache, and it's like, I don't care. None of this means anything for the story, you know. So I have this big gripe when they do this with James Bond too, where they forget that they should make James Bond into a character, and they're just all about the icon, the iconography. I could tell my audience was full of video game fans. I could hear a little rumble when you know, the little Easter eggs popped up. They were like, oh, you know, like, oh, there it is. Oh, I recognize that. Oh. So I'm like, okay, and that's the best you can do with the movie. All you can do with the movie is remind you of how good the game is. That's bad. That's a mistake. I remember coming out, and then this is unfair to even compare like this. My gosh, I know it's unfair.
Let's see.
I remember coming out of The Dark Knight and being like, was this better than a lot of comic books I've read? I remember, I was like, can't be.
Oh man, we went to see that together, and
we did.
I remember you said, you was like. You had that face, that look on your face. That
was great. And I'm not going to go on about Dark Knight because there is another Dark Knight movie coming out very soon. So I'm not going to go on about that just yet. Batman. But I remember being kind of down on Batman because I didn't like Batman Begins. And then when I saw Dark Knight, I was like, wow, this is great. And so I came into Uncharted pretty down on Uncharted because I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, okay. This movie was exactly the trailer. It was the trailer, 100%. So kudos to them for not lying or anything, right? There's nothing in here. It's not, you know, they didn't lie about what you'd get. But what you get is the trailer looks generic, and the movie is also
what you see,
generic.
What you see, what you get.
Yeah, that's right.
We're gonna go ahead and give our rating for this film. With me being obviously a fan of the series, they need to stop these. Okay, they need to stop them. It's just a way to just get butts into the seat with a well-known actor, and sell the popcorn and all that. Oh, it's just that. But we come here to be, you know, uplifted in story and story arcs and put those together, and it just makes it feel good. But they didn't do that to a completion form for me. I'm gonna have to give this film a 4.
Okay, I think a 4 is totally fair. Yeah, that's a lot lower than I thought you'd give it. Wow. Yeah, because I was going to give it a 4.5, and I'm going to give it a 4.5. It makes it sound like I like a movie better than you, which is crazy.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, which is crazy.
That doesn't happen, people. That doesn't happen.
I know, what the heck. But the movie is very plain. It's very plain. It's the cheese pizza movie. You know what I mean? It's fine. You know, it's okay. But for me, my basic requirement for a movie. No, it isn't. No, it makes your stomach hurt afterward. You know what I mean? But my basic requirement for a film is to just entertain me. I want to sit down and be entertained. Beyond that, whatever, you know. And I know that that's a high. It's very vague to say just entertain me. It's very vague.
There's different things that goes into that when it comes to entertaining you, because you want the story. Because you always say, "Tell me a story," but this thing is telling a story better than what's on the screen.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's exactly right. This movie makes me think of the game a lot, right? Which is on purpose. And I was highly entertained by the game. And I cannot help but compare while I'm watching the movie. And I'm like, yo, the game's better. And I think there was a point in time, especially with our generation, you know, there was a point in time where you would look forward to a video game movie because you would feel like you were really this would somehow justify your fandom or something, you know. And it's like and it felt like this your movie, the video game just got elevated, just got taken to another level. But that has passed. That time is gone, right? Video games can tell awesome stories now. They often do. They do it without you even thinking about it anymore. They'll make video games that make you laugh, they make you cry, they make you scared. They do it all the time. So like, I don't think we need this. If you want to see a great Uncharted story or a great Uncharted movie, play Uncharted. Like it's been out for like a long time. So I'm not sure why we need a movie for Uncharted. It feels unnecessary. Seems superfluous. So a 4.5 to me is, I found a 5 to be like average. 4.5 is below average, generic. Don't bother with this film. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it if you're not a fan of the video game. I don't recommend it if you are a fan of the video game. Don't bother. This movie was in development hell for a reason.
All right. Well, I gave this movie a 4. Devin gave this movie a 4.5. It's another TNT special, people. The TNT
exactly.
vacuum in the background. Hey, put them damn toys down. I told you to get the back on cage. God, me. Man.
Yeah.
What's that on TV?
Hey, are you playing Uncharted? Oh, it's the movie. Walk away.
Oh man, that, people, is our review for Uncharted. We'd like to thank you guys, man, for coming to the channel. I'm telling you, we're having a great old time. Subscriber counts are going up. Do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. It's right there to the right. It's in red letters. Hit it right there. And hit the notification bell to stay up to date with everything we do right here on Mostly Wrong Opinions, all right? And you know what else you can help us out with? If you liked our review for this, hit the thumbs up. Okay? If you didn't, you put the thumbs down. And you could just be like, Tom Holland is amazing. He's Spider-Man. He's great. and you know, when Mark Wahlberg talks, it's Sully. He makes sounds like, hey, you guys, we got some treasure over here. Let's go. Let's go. We got treasure, guys.
And that's just how I like it.
If that's what you feel, it is your opinion. But just remember one thing. It's mostly wrong. See you guys in another video.